Welcome to Ulua. You live, you work, you art.
Hello, I'm Carol from Ulua. Have you ever been in a conversation where you felt awkwardness, or you felt like the conversation wasn't flowing at all, and that you feel like kind of a little bit of intimidated in the conversation? Think about that. And now think about other times where you had really good conversations, when the words were flowing and the ideas were building upon each other, and they were like really easygoing, and where you felt at ease with the other person. Well, this episode is inspired because a few days ago I went for dinner with a friend I hadn't seen in a long time, and we had a really great conversation. 4 hours or more passed, and I didn't feel like the time was passing by. That it was actually, everything was flowing, and we could have a really good conversation. And we talk about, I don't know, so many things, because it was a lot of times since I had a team before, and it got me thinking about the times that I had really bad conversations. And I have had one about a month or so with a person that I know, for example, that she's a psychologist. And I thought that conversations, maybe a psychologist would be good at talking with other person, but it doesn't work like that. She's just another person like any other else. I'm not naming names because I know a lot of psychologists, so it doesn't matter the name. But I felt like kind of, I don't know if threaten is a super strong word. But when I arrived at the cafe, we just down, and we said hello and all that. And when we started talking, she started like asking me question after question after question, and I was like, I felt like, and then at the moment I say, oh, I feel like I'm in an interview or something, because she's also a recruiter. And I say, maybe you're trying to recruit me. What are you expecting from this? And we had a laugh about that, but I felt really uncomfortable because it was not a conversation. It was just like all times interview, I would say. And she started asking, for example, what are you doing at your work, and how do you solve this and that? And yes, it was about solving some things, but it was not actually flowing. It was not something that we were building or we were talking about. I didn't know even what she wanted to solve. She just asked, do you know a problem solving method and how you do it, and if you have this, how you do that? And I really felt like it was I don't know, like an exam. It also seemed like a test. And so I thought maybe I should talk sometime later, because it was like a month ago, about conversations. And I can see that actually we, as human beings, are, even though we are in contact with more people nowadays, because we have social media, we have chats, we have, I don't know, Discord, we have WhatsApp, Telegram. We have so many apps where we chat with others, but it's not the conversation. It's not something that is flowing. Maybe you can. I've had in the past, many years ago, chat conversations that get really deep, because we started knowing each other and we were talking about really deep topics. But in general, what you see is just, I say something, you say something, and maybe it's completely unrelated one thing from another. That is that the way things are flowing, are not flowing actually nowadays. And I can see the contrast between one type of conversation and the other. And I remember before the pandemics, I will be talking about some, I could say, tips or ways of having a good conversation, at least from my experience. And I remember also, and I think this is why actually we don't have good conversations, or we have less of good conversations than we used to. A brief pause here, because I'm thinking maybe in the past we have always had good and bad conversation. That's for sure. Because when I was younger, I remember maybe I didn't. Sometimes it also has to do with the mood. Sometimes I'm not in the mood of talking to somebody else. For example, if I just meet somebody at the elevator, I say, hi, how are you? And that's it. Or maybe there are people that don't like to even salute others. So, but I mean about conversations with friends, where at least one of my expectations is, if I have a friend, actually most of my friends are good conversators, to really, for it to be an interchange of ideas or of opinions, of experiences and things, I want them to be meaningful. Maybe it's just for me, but that's my idea of a conversation, something that is actually meaningful and not just talking about the weather, chit-chat conversations and that kind of thing. So coming back to this, I think the reason that we don't have this kind of conversations, or at least what I see with other people, is because we are so used to not only text messages, but also these audios that you send other people. And I'm going to tell you about an experience I had, and it was previous to the pandemic. I think it has been increased even, because everyone is sending you audio messages and that kind of thing. And I had a friend at the time. I remember she once sent me an audio of 15 minutes. 15 minutes. I didn't finish actually listening to all the audio, and I say, can you sum it up please into, I don't know, 2 lines or so? Because she said, first she's like, this was her process of, okay, it's easier for me if I just record an audio for you. And I say, okay, maybe it's an interesting thing. So I started listening to it, but she was at the same time cooking. And she said, okay, I could hear her open and close cupboards and that kind of thing, looking for things. And she was saying, oh, but I now have to put salt on this. And, oh, what was I saying? And at the end, she didn't say anything at all. And I had a discussion at the time with her, and I said, after that thing, and after I said, please sum it up and what you really need, or how can I help you? But I don't want to listen to a 15-minute audio, because if I want to, and at the time I think we didn't have this thing that goes faster, and I don't like listening to faster things anyways. But and we had this discussion we had, because I said, and maybe it's just me, but I feel this is disrespectful of the time of the other person, because time is the only thing we have in life actually. And if you are sending me something that is meaningless, and I have to sit down for 15 minutes to really understand what you need, I don't think that's a conversation. I don't think that's useful for any one of us. And I really don't like that. So, well, that's just for me a non-negotiable, let's say. And I understand maybe it's easy for the person that's talking, because they're just talking and saying things, but the others have to be listening to. And if we all do that, maybe it's not nice to use the time of other people like that because you are using their life. That's my thinking. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't know. Maybe you can tell me in the comments now you're exaggerating, and maybe I am, but that's no negotiable, at least for me. And I do send audios to some people, but I try to be as short as I can sometimes. And I only do it with people that, for example, for my parents, because maybe they can't read that well and it's easier for them to listen to me and instead of reading, for example. And for other people that I know that they like or they prefer audios, then I send audios. But anyway, I think that is why we have less of conversations right now, because we don't know how to be concise in our words. We don't know how to condense the information for others to be in an easy way, and also short for the other people to just know what you need or what you want or what you are expecting from them to do and that kind of thing. So I think audios are really, at least for me, I don't like them. And actually, also this podcast started because I wanted to be more concise in my expression, and I want to be, first of all, not forget about English, because for some years I didn't speak English and I sometimes forget about things, words and stuff. But I also wanted to be want to learn about myself. I did an exercise in the past, how to dump all the things or the ideas I had in mind at the time, and I was able to write the things and make them make sense in paper. So that is a thing I'm proud of having learned. But now I want to be more concise and express the things in an easygoing way, even though I have this goal of talking about maybe some complex things in the future, where, as you can understand if you have been following the podcast, there's some kind of, I don't know if the word is narrative, but we are building up on some vocabulary we are using and that kind of thing. So I think it's really nice to go building these ideas one upon another. And I think having a good conversation is part of that. As I said before, I am super lucky that, well, I guess I have also curated. There's another word I'm using a lot right now. From the arts, it's like I'm selecting specifically my friends too, because I want people that can not only respect the things that I want. Maybe we can come to agreements. They don't have to be exactly the way I want them to be. Of course, nobody is, and I'm not perfect for everyone else either. But we can get to certain agreements, and that needs conversation for it to get to agreements. And yeah, so I think that is why conversations are super important for everyone. And we talk a lot about conversations, but we are really conversing with each other. We're just talking about the things that we want to talk, like in this podcast. But if you were to meet with me one-on-one, I would be trying to really understand and level up with you and the topics we are talking about. And that is why I personally think that just dumping all that you think, even though this is a podcast, and I call it talkcast mostly because I'm doing the talking, and maybe you're just chatting with me in your head or through the comments. And maybe some other time, I don't know, we can have a live conversation. Maybe if you are interested, or any one of you is interested in that. But anyways, maybe also you can translate these things, these ideas that I'm dumping on you. I don't consider you a trash can, and I think, as I said before, your life is the time you have. So if you are here, thank you for being here, because you are investing your life here, and I really appreciate that. And that is the same thing that I want for me, especially if I'm talking one-on-one with another person. So the conversation has to have some meaning. And of course, yes, you will have time with your friends where you just talk about nonsense stuff. And that's part of the conversation too. And I think it's meaningful in the way that having some fun is also good for you. And it's part of life too. So yeah, but in this case that I mentioned before, I felt like I was, maybe again, it was just me. I felt that I was being suffocated by the questions. In the case of this psychologist I mentioned, there was question after question after question. I felt like, is this a test? Is this an exam? Or what is going on here? And in the other one, where I was being dumped all this audio and too much time to just listen to cupboards opening and closing, and maybe the fryer and kitchen sounds. So yeah, I wanted to talk about how to have meaningful conversations. If we can make the most of them, how would the best conversation should be? Even though if you're not talking maybe about quantum physics, because with some friends I like to talk about things that can be really deep, but they don't have to be super deep conversations to be meaningful, as I said before. And with different friends, you have different topics, different interests in common. And sometimes you will have, for example, friends that come to mind that they will come to you with some problem, and maybe you will just listen to them at the time, and maybe sometimes you can give them some advice, sometimes you can't because you haven't experienced that situation, or maybe you don't feel you have the expertise to speak to them about that, but that's part of conversation too. And well, I haven't talked about that, I think, and I remember because we had such a great conversation with my friend the other day, and meanwhile we talk about a lot of things, and meanwhile I was watching in the other table there were 4 girls, and every one of them was looking at the cell phones. And I don't know why, but every time I with my friends, they're generally cell phones are off the table. And I haven't requested that because yes, maybe you think you are a cell phone sensor, but I'm not really not. I don't know. It's something that happens. I would say spontaneously, naturally. So we are not looking at the cell phone all the time. Maybe if we are expecting some call or something like that, we'll have the cell phone. Actually, my partner always says, "You never watch your phone when you're outside the house." Yes, because I'm focused on doing other things, and I have that. Sometimes I have to, because I always have my cell phone. In this case, I have it right here, but I almost never use it. And when I go out, I have it in my bag. And sometimes I have to ask, oh, what time is it? Because maybe I don't know, we have been like more than expected in the conversation. Maybe my partner is waiting for me or is worried that something might have happened. But yeah, so generally the cell phone is just secondary in a conversation. I never look at it because I want to be present and honor the person that's in front of me and honor their time also, and especially to have a good conversation, if possible. And maybe this sounds too strange talking about honor, maybe because I lived in Asia, I don't know. But it came to mind honor. They were honoring their life and honoring their time they're giving me, and I'm giving them too. So it's a shared experience. Even though we, as I said, maybe be talking about funny stuff, it doesn't matter. But it's a time we are both of us present. And actually, if I think looking at other people's behavior also, for example, in a bar or in a restaurant, it makes me realize about the differences that we have during our times, our conversation, and that kind of thing, because I see most of the people, even if they are in group, looking at their cell phones, and I think that is something that I want for me. That's a non-negotiable. But again, you do you. We are talking about good conversations here. Another thing that is really interesting is that when you converse with some people, it can be personal, and I've also seen it one-on-ones, virtual conversations online, because I am also a coach, and sometimes I have people that I'm coaching, and we have this silence between us. Sometimes we are talking and then we just stop. And I have found that talking to other people, that some are uncomfortable with silence. That for me is really interesting, because and even some people have told me I need to be doing things all the time. I can't be in silence because I can't stand my own being in silence. And for me, that is kind of sad, because if you can't stand yourself being in silence with yourself and honoring your own time, yourself, wow, that must be a hard work, a hard life to live. And it can be trained. It can be trained, so don't panic because I'm saying this if you have this case. But I feel silence is super important, because it's like if you're, I don't know how many musicians can be around here, or if you like listening to music, you might have noticed that in a melody, in a song, in any music, if you play an instrument, you need silence, because otherwise it's just a completely chaotic thing, like, I don't know, all instruments colliding and all notes just crashing with each other. And you need those silence to enjoy, for example, a note that's ending and nothing happens, and then another one. It's this rhythm that's going on. You always need silence. And we always need this space where I think, and I've seen it when I have conversations, for example, with coaches, just with friends too. When this silence comes, it's like a relief, and like we are connecting even more deeply. and not only with our insights, with our own mind palaces. I feel it's like something is going inside there. I call it my cottage mind because I don't think it's a mind palace. But something is getting into, something is, I don't know, it's like a gift that we are taking into our own minds. Yes. So yeah, I feel that silence is really important. And right now, what I see is that people are, like in this case of the question, one question after another was like suffocating. I said, I need some space. I need some space to think and to be able to. It also had to do with my expectation because I think we are meeting over coffee for a conversation. And it was not going like that. It was not a real conversation. After I said to this person, hey, I feel like I'm being tested, like this is an interview or something, and then she said, oh yeah, sorry, because I wanted to, and I actually think that's the way she had conversations. Because I have had other conversations with other people too in the same way, and I don't feel comfortable at all with that kind of conversation that are actually for me not conversations. And I think it's because we don't know how to have a conversation, or maybe in the other case I have two recent ones, and I say, hey, but to the other person I said, hey, but why don't you tell me something about you? Why don't we talk about something else and not just, in this case the questions were like, where do you live? What do you do? What do your parents do? I don't know, it was like tuk, 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 tuk. Those questions, and I said, I want to know something about you. How are you feeling? What are you thinking? Why are you asking these questions like this? And in this case, she said, well, this is because I don't want to talk about me right now because I'm not feeling well. I'm feeling kind of, I'm having some health issues, and I just want to talk about something else. And I say, okay, but we can talk and have a conversation, even if it's just about me or my parents or whatever you want to know, but this can be like a little more going, right? And not just question after question. So I think after that we came to an agreement and we could start having a more relaxed conversation. What I feel is sometimes when I had these types of non-conversations, how I call them, it's because the other person doesn't want to get vulnerable, maybe. They don't want to be seen. So they just, maybe I have some where they just ask questions and they don't give the space to ask something in return or to complete the full sentences sometimes. And maybe they are just interrupting and asking, or in some other cases, what I've seen is that somebody is speaking and they never stop. They're just, and I feel like I cannot say anything. I just say, okay, it's just a monologue. And sometimes I have to interrupt and talk about it with the other person. Sometimes when I really don't care about the conversation, because yeah, I do have those times that I say, okay, with this person, I don't think we will amount to much. So we won't get anywhere actually. So I say, okay, maybe I just leave them talking and that's it. But if I really care I feel like I have the obligation, at least for me, again, to say, okay, I really care about what you have to say, and I really care about this for it to be a really good conversation. So why don't we maybe do this or do that? Have some pacing or some thing, some way of talking, and that is really nice and good for the both of us. And as I said before, sometimes I think it comes because we don't know how to have a conversation, or the other person may be too anxious. That it has happened to me. Some friend comes with a problem and they want to tell everything about the problem, and I let them just talk and express all they want to talk because I know they are this way. And then I start conversing with them, and once they have relaxed a little bit. But yeah, I think it's really important for us to be able to have good conversations. I don't know, it's just me. Maybe you don't care, you do you. But tell me if this is not resonating with you, maybe. And I also want to say that actually I did have to learn how to have good conversations. When I started coaching, I actually started coaching because studying about how to be a coach and that kind of thing, because I wanted to have better conversations, because I was a complete nerd, I have to admit, at the time. And though I did have so much knowledge about things, I couldn't express the things that I want, that I maybe then I had to at work, and I had to lead other people, and I didn't know how to listen to them. I didn't know how to speak to them and understand that they had different ways maybe that they'd like to be spoken to. Did I say right that? I don't know. Well, okay, you understand that. So yeah, I had to learn how to communicate better. And if I look back at the past, I can see that I have learned a lot of things, actually. And so I will be talking about coaching. I did coaching in NLP just a little bit, because I don't want it to make this a coaching training or anything. I did NLP, and they tell you how to. You have to look in the eyes to the other person, and you have to, I don't know, maybe if you're looking that way, they are thinking in images, or if they're thinking in emotions, or those kind of things, which I really think that are super important. But I don't think they are the ultimate goal, because when you're learning that, what you do, and I've seen this in young coaches, I don't know if, well, when I was a young coach, I used to call me a baby coach myself, but I'm not sure if everyone is willing to accept that term, baby coach, because they are just starting. And when you are starting, you feel like you have to do everything that they have told you in the training, and it's really awkward, and conversations become super awkward. So, because you're trying to see, oh, where is that person looking, this way, that way, you're trying to remember it. Oh, if they are looking that way, that means, and you lost completely, you lost the track of the conversation. And that's actually counterproductive for me, in my experience. So I just said, okay, I have this knowledge, but I'll try to be present for the other person in the conversation. I will forget about everything that, well, not everything, but I will just dismiss that when I'm talking to somebody. Because if not, you are just missing the conversation. You are trying to think about what is the next question that you should do, because you have to be smart in your questions, and you have to be the coach, and you have to be super formal and serious, and have, sorry, I'm doing this because I feel that's nonsense, actually. And so you are thinking, oh, what could I ask next? Because this person is telling me and I should be the one guiding them and I should be the one teaching them how to be and how to behave. And once you start growing in your practice, you realize that the person that's in front of you is a person just like you. And you don't need to be the smart person in the room and guiding them in your life as if you knew what is the best for them. So, yeah, I studied that. It was really helpful at the time, but then I say every time you understand something, just let it go because it won't serve you for your next stage. When you are, I could say, a seasoned coach, something that has good experience, you realize that those are just tools that are okay to have in your toolkit, because some things can be interesting and helpful sometimes, but really what can help you, your coachee in this case, or the other person you are having the conversation with, even if the conversation is not about coaching, you're just having a conversation with another human being. So I think the most important things for any conversation you are having that you are interested in and you want to make it meaningful, because you are I don't know, just chatting with a person that is I don't know, at the bakery, and you just want 1 kilogram of bread. Maybe you don't need to have this amazing connection with the other person if you don't want to. And just realize that you're talking to another human being and try to be there for them and not get lost into what's the next thing I should say or I should do or I should ask the others. So yeah, I think that's the most important thing I've learned the practice. And we are all human beings. You can also, even if you are present sometimes, you can say, oh, I remember, I don't know, I forgot to buy some groceries. But if you just say that, because that's another thing, we sometimes don't want the other person to know that we have lost track of the conversation. But by saying, hey, sorry, I missed I missed what you were saying because I was thinking about the groceries I didn't buy. You can come back into the conversation. Please tell me again what you were talking about. And you are a human being too. You are not the omnipresent person that can ever make an error in a conversation. You're just another person there. And yeah. So as I said before, and I remember now when I said about eye contact and those kind of things, even when I was coaching people one-on-one, I said, hey, do you do the best you can, talk with the language you want to talk to, with the vocabulary you want to speak. If you want to say some bad words or some I don't know, things that are considered, but just do it. I won't be mad at you or anything, because I think that's part of the conversation and the language and the vocabulary of the person that's talking. And if you don't, because I know there are some people that are also timid and introverts. I used to be like that. And I never had problem with looking people in the eyes, but I did have other things that I didn't want to be seen or that kind of thing. So I understand. So I said to you, just be you. If you don't want to look me in the eyes, that's perfectly fine. Instead of saying, no, you have to look me in the eyes and you have to do this and that, and you're making the other person uncomfortable. Also, another tool that's super useful when you want to have a meaningful conversation is ask them how they are feeling. Or I don't know what they are feeling, but ask them if you are making them uncomfortable, if you notice something, or ask them, what's your preference? How would you like to, especially if you don't know the person, right? Because if you do, like most of my friends, I know how they want to talk, like how to approach them, like that kind of thing, or my coaches. But at first I always ask them, do you have any preference? If you don't want to have your video on, that's okay. If you don't want to, I don't know, different things that may happen in the moment. I just want to have a good conversation with you, and that's it. So I hope this has been helpful for you in some way. If it hasn't, or if you have other preferences, and maybe you can tell me what are your non-negotiables for you and how you do it. I'll be happy to read to you. Also, I always forget about saying this, but I always forget about please subscribe if you want to, if you like this content, if this channel is like kind of random in the sense that we are building something about our whole lives. It's not just about work, because I had in the past other places where I talk only about work, but I think we now need to be a whole human being somehow. And so that is why you might into this kind of talks about you as a person, or about technology, or maybe about the arts, different things. So if you like it, and if you are interested, please subscribe and like it, share it, whatever you want to do. And I am really interested in trying to understand, for the people that are listening, if what you have to say, if you like it, if you don't like it, if I don't know, if something distracting, if you prefer, I don't know, what's your preference, basically. So I won't ramble anymore. And thank you for being here. If you are up to here, it might have been interesting. And see you next time. Bye bye. Oh, and I didn't want to bother you with my singing because it's horrible. But anyways, I will leave this this song here, the conversation. Bye bye.
Stay tuned for Ulua's next episode.